Greetings and bienvenue, MITZU. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Could we get some potential kidnapping stories? Like say you were walking home from school and some adult harasses you to give you a ride home. Then you realize that person was trying to kidnap you when you get older.
When I was younger, I used to live in a very suburban neighborhood. We didn't know everyone, we were kids, but I'm sure our parents knew mostly everyone. I was in the public park with some friends, and there was this vehicle that rolled up and stopped on the road, adjacent to the fence on the actual park property. I don't remember the face of the driver very well, but I remember them being visibly middle-aged. They asked us if we would like lunch, and we said our parents were making it for us. They kept trying to get us to come and get the little sack lunches, but we were in the middle of a game, so we never went over. They ended up getting out and putting the lunches on the table by the fence, the opposite side of the park from where we were, and drove off. I never saw that person again. As I got older, I remembered it and was put off by the possibility that we could have been kidnapped. I, being adopted, also entertained the idea that perhaps it was one of my birth parents that just wanted to make contact. In any case, it was weird. We ended up going to get the sack lunches after they drove off. I don't think there was anything in it. To this day, I have never been sick, other than allergies. I don't think I've developed anything bad that could be a result of eating something I shouldn't have. But I'm also not a doctor. For all I know, we could be sleeper agents this whole time, designated to assassinate the upper echelons of insert your favorite conspiracy org here. I guess time will tell.
My folks told me that when I was young, as in a still-in-crib baby, they took me on holiday to where I think was Tunisia. They had me in a pram, and whilst they were turned away looking at a stall, someone stole my pram and me with it, and by the time they'd turned back, I was gone. They ran around like crazy searching for me until they came upon some old antiques hut full of wooden dolls and figures. There they found an old lady holding me. Apparently I wasn't crying and I was very happy around her. The woman apologized and said she couldn't resist holding such a beautiful baby. She handed me back to my folks and said she'd made a doll of me for the trouble, which she gave to them as well, and it was a pretty good likeness. My parents didn't tell me this story until recently, when it occurred to them that she couldn't possibly have made that doll in the time it took for them to find her. I like to console myself by thinking most babies look alike and it was probably just a generic baby doll.
There was a time I was young, playing around, kicking a ball back and forth. I had a tendency to kick the ball super hard for who knows what reason, and it would usually go flying into the neighbor's yard. So, wanting my ball back, I went next door and asked if I could look around and get my ball. Well, my ball was nowhere to be found, and there was only one conclusion, that I kicked it into the neighboring yard of my neighbors. So I go next door and knock on the door, and this creepy yet sweet old lady answers the door. I've never seen her before, mostly because I was only allowed to as far as my two next door neighbors. Anyways, I ask her if I can go get my ball, and she invites me in, closes the door, and tells me to wait while she gets my ball. It felt like ages because she was so old, but finally returned with my ball. I of course say thank you, and proceed to leave until she insists on me sticking around for a little while. I of course listen, being a little kid with no worries, and stick around for a few minutes. But that's when things get weird. She starts running her fingers through my hair and says, "Boys never visit me often anymore. You remind me of my grandson." I suddenly became very uncomfortable, and I noticed a somewhat wicked look in her eye. Nope, 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 nope all over the place, and say, "I really should be getting home. My dad's already made my lunch and he's waiting." And I then turn around and start walking towards her door. She then starts to sort of bolt towards the door as I'm walking towards it, and that's when I ran out of there and never ever went back.
I remember this one time when I was about 6 or so. My daycare took us older kids to the park. I was hanging out with these two girls near the woods, and suddenly one of the girls was pointing into the trees. I looked up and saw these two older men, dressed in camo, beckoning for us to come in. Now, I've always been told to never ever trust anyone that is not my immediate family. My parents were always telling me to never talk to strangers or go with them, even if they said my mom and dad told them to pick me up. So I started screaming for one of the daycare chicks and the dudes ran off. She saw them and took off after them into the woods while the other 2 workers got everyone back toward the van. Anyhow, the chick who took off after the guys came back and said that she couldn't find them. Then we went back to the daycare.
Be me, 5 years old. Be a tiny, hella Asian-looking half-Jap with a tall, skinny, white blonde mama. Go to Target with said mama. Wander off because that's what asshole 5-year-olds do. Lose my shit when I can't find my mama and start crying like a jerk. Get taken to the front of the store and an employee does the "hey, did someone lose a kid" thing over the loudspeaker. A disheveled Asian woman walks up and starts furiously insisting that I'm hers. Freak out more because she is absolutely not my mama. Real mama comes forward almost in tears after looking for me for a good, long minute. Fake mama is like,
"This woman is a liar, obviously. I am Asian. Child is Asian. Child is mine."
Employee is like, well duh. But I take the freaking out up a few more notches and refuse to go with fake mama. Real mama somehow gives enough evidence that I'm hers. How should I know what she did that was like 20 years ago and we all live happily ever after the end? Honestly though, I'm not sure what happened because I've only been told the story by my mom. I don't actually remember it firsthand. Whatever she did, though, thank God she did it. Who knows why some random woman would want to steal me. TLDR, I almost got stolen by a crazy Asian lady at a store cause my mom is white.
Be 12 or 13. Get bored of hanging around at home watching TV. Decide to go out. Called around friends' houses. All either already out or grounded. At least I can have fun alone. Head to an old demolished sand processing plant about half a mile out into the marsh. I lived by the sea. It was our territory since we all spent most of our time there, building fires and whatnot. I'm on my bike so I get there pretty quick. I notice a creepy-ass van parked outside the compound but decide to just ignore it. I dismount and walk past the van, which I then notice contained a creepy guy. The old wanker just stares at me while I walk past. I thought it was a bit rude but decided to keep my head down to avoid trouble. I soon entered the compound, which was surrounded by tall sand banks and accessible by an entrance cut into them. Wheeling my bike, I dawdle about, exploring the rubble mounds and thinking about why he was staring at me. Out of paranoia, I glanced back to see if the old man was following. Great, he had entered the compound and was heading toward me. No big deal, was probably just walking his dog. Speed up just in case. Uneven ground makes this hard. Hide behind a rubble mound so I could observe the old man. Wait a little bit but eventually pop my head up to see. Dude is literally bolting towards where he last saw me. Realize that the whole stranger danger thing wasn't crap. Silently shit myself. Stare for a while but eventually decide to leg it away. Almost break angle on loose rubble and bike bouncing everywhere. Heart is beating fast but I know this place like the back of my hand and soon find another exit. Leads me deep out onto the marsh. If he catches up here since no witnesses. Creepy guy appears at the top of the compound's wall. He must have scrambled up and now I was in full view. My heart almost stops and we stare each other out for a bit. He makes the first move. As he comes bounding down the steep sandbank, I run faster than ever before. Again, the rough terrain slows me down. The bike is useless because the ground is waterlogged. Young legs are still faster than Mr. Kidnapper's. Easily run around the outside of the compounds to get back to the road, my house, and safety. While running, I look back. A creepy old dude has run out of energy and has come to a complete stop. Feeling relieved. Gif. I soon turn one of the compound's corners and finally reach the road. Spot his van. Revenge time. Pick up rock from the gravel lobby parking area. Proceed to make scratchy art all along the black paintwork. Too caught up in revenge to remember to take his registration plate. Ride back home feeling shaken. Never tell anyone until years later. I have other stories about that place if you're interested.
Not sure if this is paranormal, but it's definitely a scary story I thought I would share. It's about a buddy of mine I met about 5 years ago, and his experience with almost being kidnapped. Let's call him John. B. John. 2019. Walking home from work at around 1 a.m. Darker area, not many streetlights. Listening to music. The song ends and there's a pause. Can hear a car but no headlights. Looks around and notices a van behind him about 10 feet away. Van stops. Two guys jump out and start to run towards John. John freaks out and sprints. Now keep in mind, John is far from an athlete. Skinny fat at best and hasn't ran a day in his life, so his stamina was basically non-existent, which led to the next part. John realizes these guys are going to catch him. As he's running, he turns the corner and there's a strip mall with a couple shops. Guys aren't letting up and John knows he can't outrun them. John jumps into the front glass window of a subway, is torn up, legs and arms cut badly from glass. The alarm system goes off. John turns around and sees the guys running off, most likely spooked by the alarm and possible cameras. John gets up and stumbles into the back of the store and hides in the bathroom and locks the door. Starts to pass out from the pain of getting shredded by the glass window. Calls 911 and just says, "Subway, kidnap bathroom," and passes out. Wakes up in a hospital. Apparently lost a lot of blood and was lucky not to be dead. Has huge scars on his arms and legs and is mentally broken. The cops reviewed the footage but didn't see the van because they ran around a corner to get to the strip mall. Did see the two guys' faces though. Later on, John finds out they found one of them and he was associated with a human trafficking ring. What I should say is John was a goofy, charismatic guy who constantly looked on the bright side of things. Regardless of a bad situation, he found silver linings and was always optimistic for a better future. But this event damaged him beyond repair. I was friends with John while this all happened, and although you may think he's lucky to be alive, this incident completely shattered his mind. He initially was okay, but after he found out it was human traffickers or some crazy shut-like organ harvesters, he shut down. No more optimism, no silver lining or hopeful for the future. He now looked at life through a cynical and doom-filled lens. John bought a gun and locked himself inside his house for multiple weeks. We had police do welfare checks on him, so we knew he was alive, and every time he would answer and say he's fine. But he wouldn't talk to his friends, family, job, or anything. Just the cops when they showed up. And there wasn't much else they could do since he hadn't threatened self-termination or doing any harm. After a couple weeks, he finally started talking to me, and he told me all of this, and that this whole experience destroyed his mental health, and that every time he sees the scars on his bodies, he's reminded of the fate he almost met. Cold, dead eyes, and doesn't laugh or smile, and anytime we hang out, he always keeps his right hand by his side next to his gun. That's the new John. Over the years, he's gotten better, doesn't always have his hand on a gun, and occasionally laughs, but he's broken beyond repair. I'm posting his story to help others understand what this kind of shit does to some people. If you ever have a friend or family member go through something so traumatic, stick with them, as hard as it may be. John said if it wasn't for his friends and family's support, he would have killed himself in the 2 weeks he was in his house.
Around 9 years old. Be at my grandma's house. Playing outside in this cul-de-sac looking thing. Everyone knew everyone, so it would be pretty common for kids to be playing out here. Grandma went in for a second. Playing with some toys. Think about how hot it is and how thirsty I am. Walk to go inside. Some dude in his 1990-something creeper van rolls up. "Hey kid, want some water? It's pretty hot outside." He gets out of his car. Starts walking towards me. "Nah, I'm okay, I'll just go inside." Keeps pushing me towards his van. "Come on kid, I know you're thirsty." At this exact moment my dad pulls in to pick me up from my grandma's. I've never seen such a look of terror on anyone's face, but this dude looks like he's about to shit his pants. Now my dad is pretty built, grabs a bat that was inside his car and runs towards me and this dude. The guy tries to open his door. My dad moves me out of the way. At that exact moment the dude turns around. Pulls back the biggest swing he can possibly take. "Hello jaw, meet metal bat." Crack.mp3. This guy's jaw is coming out through his skin, basically hanging off his face. Completely dislocated. Blood everywhere. This dude is basically going into shock. My dad calmly drops the bat. Takes me inside. Calls 911. My grandfather used to be a cop, so they know where he lives. Around 4 cruisers pull up in 3 minutes. They all swarm the van. At this point this dude is almost dead, choking on his own blood and about to pass out. The police officers put him on his stomach so he can breathe. The ambulance arrives. Attempts to stop bleeding. They put this bag-looking thing over his head and they take him away. Officers ask a few questions and leave. Later in the report that my dad's actions were completely justified. The dude ends up losing most of his jaw from the incident. Turns out his jaw was completely shattered. Ended up getting like 5 years for trying to kidnap me. I'll never forget that day.
Be like 11. Parents visiting friends in a nearby house. Watching TV. Get a funny feeling. Look out of the window. See a guy on the street staring at my house. Just standing there, staring at the window, walls, whatever. I stand behind our special curtain. People can't see me from outside, but I can see them faintly. Nope.avi, really scared. The man actually walks up to the door, tries to unlock it. The door is locked along with the windows. He's trying to unlock it for like 2 or 3 minutes, increasingly agitated. He gives up and leaves, but actually walks up to the window and knocks on it like 3 times, rather loudly. Walks away. I'm now completely bawling my eyes out, never wanting my parents so bad as now. They come like 20 minutes after. Find me like this. Tell them the story. They call the police. Nothing really happens afterwards. I don't know if the guy ever really did something and got caught or what. Parents never left me home alone again, literally never until I was older. Still get chills and shit bricks when I remember the incident.
I have a story, kind of be about 5. Chilling in my front yard, a girl between 8 and 12 shows up. She tells me we're friends. I'm a dumb 5-year-old, so I'm like, okay, sure. She tells me we're going to go on an adventure. Again, I'm dumb, so I agree. She leads me up into this rundown apartment building. The hallways are barely lit. It smells bad, and I decide I want to leave. She's holding my arm and won't let go. You're mine now, she tells me. I'm freaking out at this point and trying to get away. She manhandles me into this dank apartment. It's filthy and dark. There's beer bottles everywhere and stuff that I realized much later was meth paraphernalia. She shoves me into a closet and locks the door from the outside somehow. I'm screaming and crying at this point. She keeps repeating that I'm hers and I belong to her and she's going to keep me forever. I stay locked in that closet for a long time. Eventually an old man shows up. He's like, WTF is this small child doing in our closet? The girl starts flipping out about how she wants a baby. Yeah, she's like 12. Weird stuff. I'm begging the man to let me go home. Finally, he lets me out and I bolt down the stairs. I can hear the girl screaming and crying as I toddle my tiny legs as fast as I can. Get home somehow. Cry for hours. My parents chalk it up to some sort of prank. Scared me forever.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentexts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check out the Odyssey page in the description for a second archive of the channel's videos.